The crowded room became silent whenever he crossed his arms, yet nobody understood the invisible fear hidden inside ordinary human gestures until one rainy evening. The city always looked colder after midnight. Streetlights reflected across wet pavement like broken pieces of gold, and the windows of tiny apartment buildings glowed softly through the rain. Inside one narrow apartment on the 4th floor, a young man sat alone beside a dim yellow lamp, staring at his untouched coffee. The room was quiet except for the ticking wall clock. Books were stacked carelessly across the floor. A gray hoodie hung over the back of a chair. The curtains were half open, letting pale blue light from the storm slide across the room like silent water. People often described him the same way. Hard to approach. Too serious. Cold. But nobody ever asked why. At work, conversations around him always felt uncomfortable. In cafes, strangers avoided sitting nearby. Even simple interactions became strange. Cashiers smiled nervously. Co-workers ended conversations too quickly. Friends slowly stopped inviting him out. He noticed all of it. And every night, he replayed those moments inside his head. Maybe it was his face. Maybe it was his silence. Maybe people simply didn't like him. One evening, while waiting at a crowded train station, he accidentally caught his reflection in the dark train window. Shoulders tense. Arms folded tightly across his chest. Jaw locked. Eyes constantly scanning around him. He looked defensive. Almost angry. But inside, he wasn't angry at all. He was afraid. Afraid of sounding awkward. Afraid of being judged. Afraid of not being enough. The strange part was that nobody could see those fears directly. They only saw the signals his body sent before he ever spoke a single word. That thought followed him home. Rain tapped softly against the windows while he searched through old videos about psychology and human behavior late into the night. The glow from the laptop lit the room in pale white shadows. Outside, distant traffic hummed through the storm. One sentence stayed in his mind. People trust body language before words. He paused the video. For the first time, he realized something painful. His body had been speaking for him his entire life. And it had been telling the wrong story. The next morning felt different. Not magical. Not dramatic. Just quieter. More aware. While walking to work beneath cloudy skies, he noticed everyone around him. A tired woman rubbing her hands together nervously while waiting for the bus. A teenager pretending confidence by standing too straight. An older man forcing a smile while avoiding eye contact. Suddenly, human behavior looked less random. Everyone was carrying invisible emotions through tiny movements. At work, he tried something uncomfortable. He uncrossed his arms. It felt unnatural immediately, like standing without armor. His hands rested awkwardly beside him while co-workers talked nearby. He felt exposed. But something strange happened. People stayed longer during conversations. Someone laughed more easily around him. Another co-worker asked how his weekend was. Small changes. Tiny moments. Yet they felt enormous. That night, the apartment no longer seemed as empty. Rainwater still rolled slowly down the windows, and the same dim lamp still covered the room in soft yellow light, but something inside him had shifted. He started studying people everywhere. In grocery stores. On trains. Inside coffee shops glowing with warm orange light during cold evenings. He noticed how confidence often came from stillness, not loudness. How nervous people touched their faces repeatedly. How loneliness appeared in lowered shoulders and wandering eyes. Most importantly, he realized something unexpected. Everyone was scared of something. The confident-looking manager at work constantly tightened his watch strap during meetings. The cheerful barista avoided eye contact whenever someone complimented her. Even strangers walking through busy streets carried hidden tension inside their posture. The world suddenly felt softer. More human. Weeks passed. Winter slowly covered the city in gray skies and cold wind. Bare trees stood motionless beside quiet sidewalks while steam drifted from underground vents into the evening air. And little by little, his body began changing naturally. His shoulders relaxed. His eye contact softened. His nervous smile became real instead of forced. One late evening, he entered a small bookstore cafe during heavy rain. Warm light spilled across wooden shelves filled with old books. Soft piano music played somewhere in the background while people quietly read beside fogged windows. Normally, he would have ordered coffee and hidden in the farthest corner. But this time, he stayed near the counter. A stranger beside him accidentally dropped a notebook onto the floor. Without thinking, he picked it up. Their eyes met for a brief second. No tension. No panic. No defensive posture. Just calm presence. The stranger smiled warmly. "You seem peaceful," they said quietly. The words almost stunned him. Peaceful. Nobody had ever described him that way before. Walking home later beneath silver rain and glowing streetlights, he kept replaying that moment in his mind. Because nothing about his life had truly changed. He still lived in the same apartment. Still walked the same streets. Still carried insecurities deep inside himself. But now, his body no longer screamed fear before his voice could speak. And for the first time in years, people were finally seeing the person he had always been underneath. Months later, spring arrived gently. The city felt alive again. Open windows carried music into the streets. Trees slowly turned green. Evening sunlight painted long golden shadows across buildings and sidewalks. One afternoon, while sitting in a crowded park, he watched people passing by. A child swinging their legs nervously before joining other children. A tired man relaxing the moment someone smiled at him. A woman pretending confidence while gripping her phone tightly. He understood them now. Not because he had mastered psychology, but because he finally understood himself. Body language had never been about manipulation or fake confidence. It was about emotional honesty. The body always revealed what the heart tried to hide. And when fear controlled the body long enough, loneliness quietly followed behind it. As the sun disappeared slowly beyond the buildings, warm orange light covered the park benches and moving crowds. Wind brushed softly through the trees while distant laughter echoed across the evening air. For years, he believed people were rejecting him. But the truth was quieter than that. They were only reacting to the invisible walls he never realized he carried. And the moment those walls disappeared, the world slowly opened its doors too. Because sometimes, the smallest movement of the shoulders can change the entire direction of a lonely life. Spring slowly changed him in ways nobody noticed immediately. Not through dramatic speeches. Not through sudden confidence. But through silence. Through tiny moments hidden inside ordinary days. One cold evening after work, he sat alone inside the same bookstore cafe where someone once called him peaceful. Outside, rain rolled gently across the glass windows while headlights stretched across wet streets like glowing rivers. The cafe smelled like coffee, old paper, and warm wood. Soft jazz played quietly in the background. People talked in low voices around him, but his attention stayed on an older man sitting alone near the corner window. The man looked confident at first glance. Perfect posture. Expensive coat. Calm expression. But after watching carefully, he noticed something small. The man kept pretending to check his phone every few seconds, even though no messages appeared. His fingers tapped nervously against the coffee cup. His eyes drifted toward the door over and over again. He was waiting for someone. And deep down, he was afraid they would never arrive. For the first time, he understood something painful about human behavior. Most people were not hiding arrogance. They were hiding loneliness. The realization stayed with him long after he returned home. That night, his apartment felt strangely peaceful. Moonlight slipped softly through the curtains, covering the quiet room in pale silver shadows. The old wall clock ticked gently while distant rain echoed somewhere outside. He stood in front of the bathroom mirror for a long time. Not judging himself. Not criticizing every expression. Just observing. His face looked softer now. His shoulders no longer carried constant tension. Even his breathing felt calmer. But then another thought appeared. How many years had fear stolen from him? How many conversations ended before they even started because his body looked closed off? How many people misunderstood him while he silently misunderstood them too? The sadness hit quietly. Not like pain. More like grief for an older version of himself. A version that spent years building invisible walls without realizing it. The next morning, sunlight poured through the city after days of rain. Streets shimmered softly beneath golden light while people moved through crosswalks holding warm drinks and bags. For once, the world did not feel against him. It simply felt human. Later that afternoon, something unexpected happened at work. A quiet co-worker sat alone during lunch, staring down at untouched food while everyone else laughed nearby. Normally, he would have ignored the moment out of fear of awkwardness. But now he recognized the signs immediately. The lowered posture. The distant eyes. The fake focus on the phone. Loneliness had body language too. He walked over slowly and sat nearby. No perfect introduction. No clever words. Just presence. For a moment, silence filled the space between them. Then the co-worker smiled weakly and whispered, "Long day." He nodded gently. "Yeah," he answered. "I know that feeling." And somehow, those simple words opened everything. They talked quietly while afternoon sunlight stretched across the cafeteria windows. Nothing dramatic happened. No life-changing speech. No emotional breakdown. Just two human beings finally feeling understood for a little while. That evening, while walking home beneath glowing orange skies, he realized the biggest secret body language had taught him. People do not remember perfect words. They remember how safe they felt around someone. Weeks later, he noticed the change everywhere. Strangers smiled more often. Conversations lasted longer. Rooms no longer felt cold when he entered them. But the most important change was invisible. For the first time in his life, he stopped trying to protect himself from the world every second. And once that fear disappeared, something beautiful quietly took its place. Connection. Real connection. The kind built through calm eyes, relaxed shoulders, patient silence, and honest presence. One final evening, he stood beside the same rainy train window where he once saw a stranger staring back at him with fear hidden inside crossed arms. This time, the reflection looked different. Still quiet. Still thoughtful. But no longer closed. As the train lights blurred across the dark glass, he finally understood something most people never realize. Sometimes, the body whispers sadness long before the mouth admits it. And sometimes, healing begins the moment someone finally learns how to stand without fear. If this story touched something inside you, maybe someone else silently needs to hear it too. Because the smallest signals often carry the deepest emotions.